Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint Netcast number 185, recorded live Monday, January 20th, 2014. I am your host and AFC Championship MVP, 2 years running, Todd Klindt. All this wouldn't be possible, this netcast, all this fine material, the microphone, the flags, all that you see, all of this around you is only here because of the fine folks at Rackspace. So go out to sharepoint.rackspace.com and check out all the cool stuff there. We've got articles and information and things like that. I'm writing an article for them right now that'll hopefully be done in a couple of days. I like to draw it out, build anticipation. If you'd like to check out our free multi-tenant SharePoint 2013 offering, there's a free trial there. It's like 45 days or something like that. See how great it is. If you don't like it, just cancel. We're super easy to cancel with. Just had a customer cancel this week. We were very gracious about it. So go ahead and give that a shot. No scary business at all. And that's all at sharepoint.rackspace.com. And again, if you jump in there, tell them, hey, from me. That way they know that I'm actually out here doing this stuff, spreading the good news. Don't need them firing me or anything like that. All right, so for the first part, we've got our production notes. I just realized that I didn't blog 184, so if you want to see Netcast 184, you can go to YouTube. Of course, that's all out at youtube.com/ToddKlindtNetcast, but I will blog that on my blog at toddklindt.com/blog. But I just realized that before I went online that 183 is the newest one out there, so I'll get that out there. On a happier note, on a more positive note, something I've been wanting to do with this Netcast forever is get people on for interviews and things like that. But because this is live and recorded, and because I'm just not very good at this, I've never really gotten the technology part right, how to stream it so that I can hear them and they can hear me and you can see us all and all that kind of stuff. I've never really gotten that all figured out. But I was talking to my buddy Jason Himmelstein last week, and he kind of put a bug in my ear about a thing that he was doing, and I'm like, hey, I could maybe use your good thought and use it on my my Netcast. So I might be trying that in a couple of weeks. So I did some tests today. Did a test with Lori Gowan, recorded it, had both of our video, both of our audio, was able to do stuff with it. So I think that might actually be a reality. Before I was going to have to do it with a program called VidBlaster, and it was all going to be very tough. But it looks like that's got potential. So I need to work on some of the rough edges because the quality is important. I know it might not seem like it to those of you who've watched this before that I actually pay attention to the quality, but I do. But it looks like I'll be able to do that, and then I'll be able to have people Skype in and interview them about stuff and things like that. So it was a good test today. I will have to improve my editing chops quite a bit because it's a little more work to get all that in. And Lori and I were Skyping, and then I was recording it and listening to the recording, and so I could hear my voice, and then I could hear my voice through her Skype, and then I could hear my voice through the recording. It was all very, and then she was listening to her own voice, and it was pretty crazy. But I think we can get it to work, so that's good. I've been wanting to do that forever, so I'm glad that we might actually be able to do that. And the last thing for the production notes is, like I mentioned last week, and of course I haven't posted last week's Netcast, so you might not have noticed, but because of some of the stuff going on and just because of the way the industry's going, I'm going to be renaming this. It will not be Todd Klindt's SharePoint Netcast anymore. So if you've got ideas about what I should name it, a couple of rules about this. The name must have my name in it. So it can't be the world's greatest Netcast, though that would be apropos. It's not, doesn't fit within the guidelines of what I'm looking for. So it has to be something with my name in it. And also, I do not want the word netcast or podcast in it. So I was at the New Media Expo a couple weeks ago, and they had all the big awards there. And the guy who was doing the emceeing, David H. Lawrence XVII, very funny guy, very long name. But he was going through all the netcasts or podcasts that have been nominated for things, and it was like, Jim's podcast, tech podcast, all this, and so he said, aren't we kind of past where we have to say that it's a podcast? And so I kind of liked his idea on that. And the third rule is it can't have any trademarked names in it, like SharePoint, for instance, or anything like that. So those are kind of the things. Doug Hemiger in the chat room here is saying Todd Klindt's Tech Talk. I've actually thought about that, and I've done some looking, like Tech Talk with Todd, things like that. Some of those are kind of taken, sort of, by other Todds, probably more entertaining Todds, but but those are good ideas. So I don't know. My degree's in business, and I've been through a bunch of acquisitions and all that with companies. And one of the things that you have to do when you're thinking about changing your name or putting out a product or any of these kind of things is you have to go and make sure that somebody else doesn't have that name already. So as I've thought through some of these on my own, those are the things. So there's like Tech Talk with Todd. I tried another one. I don't remember, but they're all good. So if you've got any ideas, besides Growing Old with Todd, though that might make an awesome show title. Lori, write that down. Yes, and you definitely check out the other Tech Todds. You'll probably never listen to this one again. But if you've got ideas, send them to me on Twitter at Todd Klindt, or you can email them to me at todd.klindt@rackspace.com. There's not like a definite end to all this because I got to talk to our marketing folks, Justin, to see what kind of ideas he has and all that. But that's something that's coming up. And again, I talked about this a little bit last week. I have to rename my Windows Phone app. I've already had to rename temporarily my Netcast. You'll notice my Netcast name in Zune and iTunes is weird now because I had to pull SharePoint out of it. Chris J.M. in the chat room suggests Hang Out with Todd and His Mom podcast. That's got podcast in the name, Chris, so I can't use it. Sorry. But so there's going to be the Netcast is going to get renamed, all those kind of things. It's going to Windows Phone app and all that kind of stuff. So if you've got those ideas, shout them out to me. I don't know what all I'll do if I'll use your idea. You'll probably just get a pat on the back or something. I don't know, a hug the next time I see you. But please do send me those names. Lord knows I can use all the help I can get. All right, so the first topics, and this was kind of a fun one. This is my favorite part of the Netcast, favorite part of the year. So as I've mentioned before, tomorrow is my birthday, January 21st, and tomorrow is a special one. Tomorrow is my 40th birthday. I know with this youthful vigor, full head of hair and all that, I don't look a day over 26, 27, but honest and for true, I turn 40 tomorrow. So one of the things that the Netcast hooligans have been doing since year one, so I started this thing 5 years ago in March of 2009 was my first Netcast, and so in January 2010, when my next birthday came around, Lori Gowan and Dan Usher kind of spearheaded this thing, and they I had been talking, so in the fall and the winter before that, I'd been talking about how it was the holidays and all that, and just if you've got an idea of a place to give donations to do that, chances are if you're listening to this Netcast, you're in technology. We sort of weathered the whole economic thing a little better than the general public did, I think. And so if you had a little extra scratch, think about donating. Think about helping somebody else out. So I talked about that, and I've talked about that a bunch of times since then, but I hit it kind of hard in the fall of 2009. And so Dan Usher and Lori Gowan got this great idea that for my birthday in January to collect money from viewers and then donate it to one of the charities that I donate money to. And it was an incredibly heartwarming idea. Loved it, very, very nice. And it's gotten bigger and bigger every year. So this year, being the 40th, my 40th birthday, Lori wanted to make something extra special and extra good. So we have a tradition where Lori does a bunch of hard work, and she gets a bunch of people to donate money. She makes gets a beautiful birthday card for me. She writes a very heartfelt message in there, puts everybody's name, and then mails it one day after the day she would have had to mail it to me for it to get here before my birthday. Now, like I said, this is a long-standing tradition. This goes back years, and Lori and I joke about it every year. This year, though, Lori was on the stick a little bit, and she mailed it early. Forgot that today was Martin Luther King Day, no mail. So once again, I didn't get the card. But since this has been going on, and this has happened so many times, Lori has always got a backup plan, and so she takes a picture of the card before she sends it to me. Too late. So then the tradition goes, she sends the card. She asks me every day leading up to my birthday whether I've gotten the card, and then on the day before my birthday when I haven't gotten the card, she sends me the pictures of the card that I will get tomorrow. So it's a great gag. She gets me every year. And so we got that right now. So you can't see it very well, but I've got it. She sent me the picture. It says, "Happy birthday. If every good thing you share with others finds its way back to you on your birthday, you will have an amazing kind of day. Hope it's wonderful." So that's a very nice card. And then there's another piece in here we'll talk about in a minute. But again, since it was my 40th birthday, she wanted to do it a little special. So she set a monetary goal that she wanted to get in donations. And so the first goal that she set was $1,000. $1,000 is a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And it's yeah, Trevor, I'll bring that up in a minute. $1,000, which is a huge amount of money. And she said that you guys blew through that in like 2 days, 3 days, something like that. Just blew through it. So she said, wow, so that's not high enough apparently. So then she set another goal of $1,500. And you guys blew through that goal too. Oh my goodness, I gotta take a breather here. Whew. All right. So you guys blew through the $1,000. You blew through the $1,500. And the grand total of money that you guys donated was $1,611.25. So yes, everybody in the chat room, clap for yourselves right now. You're incredibly, and those of you who are listening on the recording as well, because there's some names in here. So she sent me everybody's name, and I'm going to read them off. So I apologize if you didn't want your name to be mentioned. I would have cleared it, but again, I didn't get the card. It was late, all that. So then this one here says, in honor of your 40th birthday, donations have been made to the Mid-Iowa Community Action, totaling $1,611.25. Thank you for all you do for the community and the world. My goodness. Happy birthday. So the Mid-Iowa Community Action is a local charity here in Ames. It's just down the street. And it's one that my wife and I donate food to on a fairly regular basis, money and all that. And it's just, it's like a food pantry, and they help people that are having a tough time. And it seemed like a pretty worthy charity. Food is one of those things that I just kind of feel like you shouldn't have to worry about. And if somebody's actually worried about food, that's sort of a bad deal. So donating food and having a food pantry and all that. So that was great. So here are the people that have donated so far. If anybody else wants to, that's great. In no particular order. Well, actually in the order that Lori wrote them, but I don't know of any other order. Dan Usher, Kathy Dew, Doug Hemiger in the chat room, my mom and dad, Mary and Larry Klindt, Joanne Klein, also in the chat room, Fabian Tilgman, who I don't think Fabian's in tonight, but he is often, Jason Himmelstein, Laura Rogers, Jason Galicchio, Teresa Eller, I think she's in there. Yep, Teresa's in the chat room. Trevor Seward. Funny thing about Trevor Seward's, that reminds me, there's one that I don't see in here. So some of the folks I don't know what she used, some donation site, but some of them had the opportunity to send a card to the person, so me, when it went out. So I got a couple of them, and I noticed Jim's not in here. But Trevor sent his donation, and the card said, "In loving memory of Todd Klindt." So I don't know if Trevor's trying to tell me something or what, but that was kind of odd. But thanks, Trevor, I think. Lori and Matt Gowan, obviously. Naomi Moneypenny, she's also in the chat room, I believe. Yep, no, Naomi's in there, thank you. Raymond Mitchell, Jack Frew, Daniel Glenn, Mark Gam. I think Mark's in the chat room. We got a couple of Marks. Daniel Glenn's in the chat room right there. Jacob Robinson and Wendy Neal. So thanks, everybody. And then Jim Ellerberg also, because I got a card from him too. So he's not in that total, but thanks again. And Jim's done this a couple of times, sent these things in, so that's awesome. But thanks all you guys. like I've said before, this literally brings a tear to my eye when I think about it. You guys are doing some great stuff, and I'm sure those folks and names are like, what's going on? We just keep getting these checks. So that's awesome. You guys are great stuff. And I haven't cleared this through past my wife, and it might mean that I end up not getting any birthday presents. But yeah, I think we'll go ahead and match that. So the Todd and Jill donation fund we'll donate that. I don't know if we'll give it to Micah or not. I'll just talk to her about it because we've got a couple of other charities, and I kind of want to spread the money around a little bit. But I will let you guys know next week. I'll talk to her after she tells me I have to sleep on the couch about that. So you guys are absolutely amazing. That is super cool. And I mean, so I've been doing this community thing for a while now, 6, 7 years. 8 years, something like that. I've taught a lot of people. I've done a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of things. But this particular altruistic thing is one that I'm the most proud of, that I've inspired you guys to do that. So that is awesome. I can't say enough. I plan on getting, for the people who I don't have email addresses for, I plan on sending them out an email and thanking them. And then I mentioned last week, to kind of get it over the hump there, I'm going to make up some kind of a t-shirt and send you guys that too. So Naomi Moneypenny asks in the chat room a very good question. She says, "Very cool, Todd." Why, thank you, and thank you, Naomi, because you're on that list. Does Rackspace have a matching program? So Rackspace, I don't think has a monetary matching program, but one thing that Rackspace does that is amazing is, on top of sick leave and vacation time and all that, Rackspace has a 3-day, so 24 hours, that you can take off to donate to charities. So you can do like Habitat for Humanity, or you can go, tutor kids at school or whatever. But every year you get 24 hours that Rackspace pays you for, that you can go do whatever you want for the community. So again, serving food at a soup kitchen, whatever, Rackspace does that. And if you're in San Antonio, so Rackspace is in, their main office in San Antonio is in sort of a rough neighborhood in San Antonio, and they've got this huge program they call Rack Gives Back. And there's, they've got a certain amount of money that they give every year that goes towards that. There's a school next door. They're always doing projects with the school. So Rackspace very much supports all this kind of stuff, and makes me look like a nobody in comparison to all the work that they do. So that was one of the great things when they bought us a couple of years ago, and we went down and they were telling us about all this. That was one of the things that really endeared me to the company, is they seem to care about the community and all that. So, but again, I could talk about how great you guys are all night. I appreciate that, and a lot of you guys in the chat room. So hopefully you'll hear this message firsthand. But I'll get you an email, and then we'll figure out something for the shirts. We'll figure something out. So thanks again, and a round of applause for Lori for organizing all this. I don't see Dan in the chat room, but couldn't have done it without Lori. This was all her doing. I just talked about it. So that's it. So, but thanks again. I'm very very honored that you guys did that. And in celebration for my birthday, I'm drinking out of a birthday cup. I only have daughters that have had birthdays so far, so all I had was Disney. But thank you guys very much. All right, so now actual technical type things. Let's go ahead and do that. We've got the warm and fuzzy part down. Let's do technical stuff. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is something that we've talked about on the show before, but it's an important subject and it bears repeating. Microsoft has a list of things that you should never do to your databases outside of SharePoint. Now, the official title they give this document is Support for Changes to the Databases that are used by Office Server Products and by Windows SharePoint Services. So this document's been around for a while, since SharePoint 2003, I think. But it talks about all the things that you should never, ever do to your SQL databases. And this comes up, because oftentimes well-meaning or not so well-meaning. DBAs like to get into the databases and fix the databases. One thing that they don't keep in mind when they do that is they might know SQL up one side and down the other, but they don't know SharePoint very well. And so they end up doing things that SharePoint doesn't like. And they also don't understand some of the limitations of SharePoint. Like it doesn't do referential integrity, for instance. It loves using GUIDs as primary keys, for instance. So because there's no overlap and all that, we don't want people getting in that. So this document lays out all the things that are supported, which is like that list, and lat long, and then a list of all the things that you can't do. Now, I don't remember if they mention it in here or not. I read through this. There's also a typo in this TechNet document. So to encourage you guys to read the document, I'm not going to tell you what the typo is, but there is a typo in here. But basically what they talk about is the only supported changes that they will support are ones that you do through SharePoint, essentially. So through Central Admin, through PowerShell, the object model, things like that. One of the things that, okay, so they do have it at the bottom. So one of the things that has, so every time I say this, everybody's like, but, I do reads and it's okay. Even reads are explicitly not allowed. Let me say that slowly one more time for the DBAs that are going to be forced to listen to this by their SharePoint administrator brethren. Doing selects from the SharePoint databases is not allowed. Now you're saying to yourself, I can kind of understand not allowing deletes, and I can sort of understand not allowing updates, that kind of thing. But why not selects? There's no way that you can hurt SharePoint with just a select. Is SharePoint so fragile that a simple select statement will bring it down? Yes. Yes, it is. And at least one of us in this whole Netcast has done that multiple times. So here's what can happen. For those of us who are not SQL experts, myself very much included, anytime we want to figure out, columns and whatever, we type the same 3 words into the query analyzer. We find our poor database off into the Object Explorer. We pop open a new query window and we write these 3 words: select star from. Because we want to see the whole layout of the database, and then we'll start doing our filters and our wheres and that kind of stuff. The problem with select star from is that if you have a really big table, select star from could take a really long time. And SQL likes to give good answers. And if your table has, 1 million rows or something, like if you're in the all docs table, if you do a select star from, you will lock the table. Anybody want to hazard a guess what happens to SharePoint when you lock the all docs table? It plays the sad trombone sound, and everybody in that site, in that content database, gets nothing. I say that because I've done it. I know what it looks like. So now one of the things that the SQL team has done to keep us from shooting ourselves in the foot is if you right click on any table, now you have this option, select top 1000. So that's not a horrible thing to do. You're not going to trick me into telling you that it's okay, but it's not horrible because 1,000 rows won't lock the table. SQL will give you 1,000 for free before it will start locking things. So usually more than 1,000, but for sure 1,000. So then you can see what's going on. So, and that is explicitly laid out in the bottom. The final and the penultimate paragraphs talk about that. So don't even do selects. Now, if you're in a test environment, if you're in an environment that you don't care what happens to it, by all means, get in there, roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty, see what those databases are made out of, get in there, figure stuff out. That's one of the greatest ways to learn, but never ever do it on production. Not even on a dare. Don't drink alcohol near your SQL databases in case you'll lose your inhibitions and start doing selects against your databases. Don't even do it because it will cause you problems. Now, with SharePoint 2010 and 2013, there is one exception to that rule. We have the WSS logging database, and Microsoft has said that one is fair game. You can do whatever you want to do with that database. And the reason that you can is because the WSS logging database is an aggregation of stuff from other places. So you're never going to destroy actual data. It's going to come up with stuff from your ULS logs and your usage logs and things like that. So don't get in there, do whatever you want with that one, but stay out of your databases. And the reason that I'm saying this, even though it's 2014 and flying cars are right around the corner, just within the last week I've talked to somebody who's had this problem with the DBA, and the DBA would not listen to reason. And the SharePoint person that was working with them is certainly knows their stuff, well worthy of respect, and the DBA is like, nah, it's all good. I know what I'm doing. Except they didn't. So if you've got DBAs, have them look at this knowledge base article. And there's some other stuff out there, but we'll do that. Another great plug now is if you're making your DBAs watch stuff, go ahead and have them watch my video series on SharePoint Pro Mag about setting up SQL for SharePoint. So we have part 1, which is set up SQL, and then parts 2 and 3 are also out there. This is a great series on, it's both an article and a video of me installing SQL Server for SharePoint 2013, configuring SQL Server for SharePoint 2013, and then like some little extra tweaks, kind of Todd's favorite things to do with SQL. They're all in there. So check that out at SharePointProMag.com, or I've also got them linked in my blog so that you can go there as well. So make your DBAs watch that too. Lock them in a room. Don't let them out. Come up with a quiz. Make them. Well, they're not going to find that typo in the knowledge base article. But good stuff. Thanks to the person who mentioned that to me. So another thing that's come up this week is we had a customer asking whether they could disable the My Sites in SharePoint 2013. I talked earlier about how your guys' tremendous generosity brought a tear to my eye. It almost did. I try not to cry on camera. When people ask if they can disable My Sites, it also makes me weep. More inside than outside, but it's a bad thing. So back in the SharePoint 2010 days, I got this question a bunch, and I finally wrote up a blog post on it, on how you could disable My Sites in SharePoint 2010. It hurt my heart to write that blog post, and I felt like a traitor when I did it. But again, I got that question a bunch, and so I decided to blog it. So now that question's starting to come up a lot for SharePoint 2013. The good news, at least for me, is that it's much tougher in SharePoint 2013 to disable My Sites than it was in 2010. So let's talk about why. In SharePoint 2010, you have your My Sites, and your My Site is really two pieces, whether you think about it that way or not. There's the My Site host, which is a site collection that you go to, and then it kicks off the creation of your My Site site collection. So there's the My Site host and the My Site site collection. And in SharePoint 2010, the My Site site collection had some document libraries in it, and it had the little hierarchy browser and all that kind of stuff. But it was your own site collection. SharePoint 2010 also introduced everybody's favorite service application, the User Profile Service. And the User Profile Service has 3 databases: the Sync database, the Profile database, and a Social database. That was close, almost locked up there. And the Social database held all of the social things that you did in SharePoint. So if you tagged documents or left notes on them or those kind of things, those all went in the Social databases. And so that worked pretty well, but one thing that Microsoft realized is for really big organizations that were really, really heavy in social stuff, that one database became the bottleneck. Because if you had hundreds of thousands of users and they're all tagging this and Noteboard and that and all that, SQL just couldn't quite keep up. So to make things scale better, in SharePoint 2013, Microsoft took a bunch of that social stuff and pulled it out of that one social database, and they spread it out amongst a whole bunch of other databases, content databases, and they did that by storing your social stuff in your site collection. So in SharePoint 2010, you could disable My Sites but allow some of this other social stuff. In 2013, you can't do that because the social stuff is stored in the My Site. So in SharePoint 2013, you have to have My Sites if you're going to have the news feed, if you're going to have followed content and things like that. You have to have My Sites. You can, and then on top of that, if you want to also enable the tagging, the notes, and all that kind of stuff, you can, all that. But yeah. Now, when I talk about My Sites to customers, whenever somebody says, I want to shut off My Sites, my first question is why? Because there's usually one or two reasons why they want to do that. The first one is storage. They don't want everybody having their My Sites and it being gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes of content that they have to store. So that's a good time for me to talk about quotas. My Sites have a very small quota, like 500 meg out of the box. And so you can make that even smaller if you want to. But 500 meg times, however many employees you have probably isn't going to be much compared to your other content. So storage is not a big deal. The other thing that I hear, though not quite as much, is people asking about privacy. They're like, hey, if I set up these My Sites and Fred goes to Wilma's My Site, then Fred's going to see all Wilma's stuff, and she's got documents and stuff in there. So that's when I like to take them back to that whole, there's really two parts to My Sites. There's the My Site host and the My Site site collections. And when Fred goes to Fred's My Site, Fred sees his stuff. When Fred goes to Wilma's My Site, he's not really going to Wilma's My Site. If you look at the URL, he's really going to a page called person.aspx with a parameter at the end, a query string that says Wilma. So he's not seeing Wilma's My Site. He's only seeing the pieces of information that Wilma has put into her profile that shows up there. And so it's not this privacy hole that people are worried about. Now, you can share documents in your My Site. There's a shared documents thing, and you can put them in there and people can see them publicly. But that's a different story. So most of the time when I talk to folks, I'm able to talk them into My Sites. The reason that I like My Sites so much is because they are a great place for new SharePoint users to kind of get their feet wet and poke around with SharePoint a little bit. If they don't have that spot, I'm worried about two things. I'm worried about that they're just not going to try to learn SharePoint. They're not going to try to figure the interface out, figure out what it's like to upload documents and check them out and things like that. Or if they're super curious, I'm worried they're going to try to figure that all out someplace else, someplace that's way more important than their My Site. So I like to give them that spot to just tear around and dig things up and break them. But then also that enables all the social things, which I also think are a pretty good part of SharePoint. So I mentioned earlier that at sharepoint.rackspace.com we've got a bunch of articles and things like that. This is one of those articles that's going to show up there. I'm in the process of writing it now. I've got some screenshots, so that will go up. It won't go on my blog, though I will probably blog about the fact that it's up on Rackspace. But so if you have, if you're a CIO or whoever wants to get rid of My Sites, you'll at least have some reasons not to do it. And I saw some stuff about that in the chat room. Looks like all the questions got answered. Good stuff in there. All right. So a couple of, now that I've gone over, I might as well keep going over, a couple of non-SharePoint things that I wanted to talk about. And again, so as part of the renaming of this Netcast and my blog and all that kind of stuff, I've been talking recently, and this happened about 9 months ago or so, talking about other Microsoft things. And I've always talked about PowerShell. I've always talked about SQL and things like that. But I started talking about Windows Phone, a few months ago when I got a Windows Phone. This summer or last summer when I got my Surface tablets, I started talking about that. And so just, part of that renaming, I'm not going to focus so much on, it's not always going to be SharePoint, which I kind of already done anyway. So the last couple of things are about that. So the first thing that I want to talk about, and I kind of showed this a little earlier, is a while back I got a Dell Venue Pro tablet. So this is a 8-inch tablet running Windows 8.1. Make sure there's nothing embarrassing showing up on there. Nope. Good enough. So this is an 8-inch Windows tablet, and I think I talked about it a little bit back when I got it, but I wanted to talk about it a little more. tonight. This is running full Windows 8.1, so this is not an RT device. This is running desktop Windows. You can load any application that you want on it. It's got an Atom processor and 2 gig of RAM, which I will agree sounds kind of anemic, kind of sad and pathetic. But in practice, I've found that with a small screen, the amount of things that I want to do at once is pretty small. And so the Atom processor and the 2 gig of RAM, for the most part, can keep up. Now, if I had the setup like I've got with my Surface, where I've got 4 screens and all this other kind of stuff, the 2 gig here wouldn't keep up. I can guarantee you. But for a tablet type device, it's pretty nice. I like it. 8 inches is a pretty good size. It's about the same size as my Kindle. I've got a Kindle Paperwhite. It's a little bigger, a little heavier. I also had a Google Nexus 7 device. Got that a couple summers ago, and so it's a little bigger than that, but it's a good size. It's not too heavy. Now, this has got a case on it. This case did not come with it. This is a case that I bought just to cover it up while I traveled, but there's a bunch of them out there. I'm hoping either tomorrow for my birthday or an after birthday present to myself, I'll be getting a case that has a Bluetooth keyboard built in. Lori Gowan's got one. She was showing it off. It looked pretty snazzy, and so it'll just fold up. But this particular case was like $20. It's got the little stand, so that it'll stand up so I can use it on planes, that kind of stuff. Phenomenal battery life. It's lasted forever. I've traveled once since I got it. Well, once on a plane. Battery lasts forever. I will say, though, I do find myself sort of wishing that it ran RT and not Pro, because I feel a little safer with the RT devices that I'm not going to get crud on there. I'm not going to get malware. I'm not going to get any kind of viruses. But also that things like Dropbox or whatever aren't going to be running in the background. Now, with my Surface on my desktop, that's no problem. It's got power. It's got wired network. It can do whatever. But like when I take my Surface and I travel, I don't want all that crap running in the background. I don't want it killing my battery. I don't want it trying to get out through the Wi-Fi on the plane or any of that kind of stuff. And so with this thing running full Windows, that kind of bothers me. But a funny thing about this is on my Surface Pro, I'm running Windows 8.1 Pro, I believe. The Dell comes with Windows 8.1, but not Pro. And so there's a few things that you can't do. Like, for instance, I can't join this to my domain at home. And we all have Windows domains at home, right? This version of Windows will not join a domain. Another thing I can't do is I can't turn remote desktop on this. I can RDP into things from this, but I can't RDP into this from other things because that version of Windows doesn't support it. A couple other little things like that, but I've never not used the Pro version of Windows. So there have been a couple times that I was looking for stuff, and I'm like, where's it at? Well, it took me a couple times before I realized that this didn't have the full version on it. So I assume I could upgrade. I've got an MSDN account. I assume I could upgrade this to the Pro version of Windows. I just haven't done that yet. So this device, I've been using it for probably a month now. I think I got it shortly after Christmas. It's a little quirky. So let me talk about a couple of the things here. So it's pretty low on buttons and things like that. So on the top here, we've got a headphone jack, which is obviously for headphones. And then we've got the Windows key here. So you'll notice, like on the Surface, there's a Windows key here. It doesn't have it here. The Windows key is right here. Kind of weird, kind of odd because the Windows key moves. But honestly, after a couple of weeks, it doesn't trip me up much anymore. But it did take some getting used to. Like, I'd get used to it being up here on the top, and then I would, there it moves. So that took a little getting used to, not horrible. But those are the things that we've got there on the top. On the side, we have a power button up here. We have the power button up here. We've got the volume up and down here. And then we've got a USB port right here. So the Dell Venue Pro 8 uses a thing called USB on the go, or USB OTG. So this micro USB port is how you hook things up to the Dell Venue Pro 8, or I've been calling it the DV8. But that's also how you charge it. So what you cannot do is you cannot charge this and have USB devices hooked up to it. So that is kind of weird. Now that is, so to hook things up, you need one of these USB OTG cables, and this is an industry standard. So, I mean, like my Android tablet had it, and so this has the female USB that you're used to, and then the micro on that end. So that's how you hook things up. But you can't charge and hook those up at the same time. Not that USB OTG doesn't support it, but the tablet doesn't support it. So it hasn't been a huge deal now, but if you ever wanted to use this as a desktop replacement-ish, sort of, you wouldn't be able to, because you wouldn't be able to hook up your keyboard, your mouse, and all that kind of stuff. And Chris in the chat room, Chris JM, is mentioning that your headphone port is also a microphone port. I actually hadn't tried to record anything on this yet, so I didn't notice that. So I assume it takes the regular 4-pin dealio on that. So the charging and all that is a little quirky, not horrible to deal with. Now, to make some of this easier to handle, the DV8 has Bluetooth, so you can hook a Bluetooth keyboard, Bluetooth mouse, and all that up to it. And it also has Miracast, and that's M-I-R-A, so it sounds like mirror, but it's Mira, M-I-R-A, Miracast. And what Miracast is wireless display, so you can get a Miracast device like this and hook it up to HDMI, and then it just shows up on the DV8 as another screen, so you can mirror to it, you can extend to it, you can do whatever. Part of this that I'm going to talk about here in a minute, we'll get into it. Out of the box, out of the factory, the Dell Miracast didn't work. There was some issues with drivers. You had to update some drivers, and it appears that the Miracast on the DV8 is a little quirky. So I got this cheapo Rocketfish Miracast receiver at Best Buy. It was like $20, and I can't get it to work. And I can't get it to work with a DV8, and I can't get it to work with the Surface Pro 2, both of which are supposed to do Miracast. So I think this thing is screwed up. So I'll send it to somebody who can get theirs working, and we'll go. Again, that's Rafael Rivera is the guy that I talked to him about it. He's not sure. Again, birthday's tomorrow. If I don't for my birthday get it, I asked for one of the little Netgear Miracast receivers, which I think will work better. So you can hook hook a Bluetooth keyboard up to this, have it charging Miracast to a big HDMI screen and all that. But I never got the Miracast to work. So the other thing is so that kind of Mark's suggesting that it's PEBCAC. That's usually a good place to start. That's normally where I begin my troubleshooting, honestly. So the DV8 has been a good one. This is the 64 gig one, I think, $300-ish from Amazon. It's been a good device for me. I use it as a Kindle sometimes. I use it to play solitaire when I'm bored. It's been a pretty good device, so I like it. But it's been a little quirky. And so part of that is the drivers. Like I talked about, the Dell drivers for Miracast didn't work. A bunch of people have gotten that to work. I don't think that's my problem now because my Surface Pro 2 doesn't work with this either. So, but there was that. There's also some of us, I have this problem, Lori does not, that most of the time, not all of the time, but most of the time, when this thing comes out of sleep, it loses its wireless connection. So it says it's connected to wireless, but it just doesn't work. Sometimes it'll help me and say limited, but if I disconnect and reconnect, that's fine. It does that. So that's been a little quirky. It comes with some Dell software that helps you download patches and things like that, and it's really great. It scans your machine, and it tells you all of the patches that you can load on your machine, including all of the ones that you've already loaded on your machine. So when I got this thing, I'd obviously researched it within an inch of its life, so I knew I had to do the update for the Miracast and all that. So I ran that Dell utility, had all my patches there and BIOS upgrades and all that. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. And I loaded a bunch of them up, and I rebooted like 107 times and loaded the Dell thing back up, and all the same patches were there. So I kind of had to keep a mental track of the ones that I've installed and the ones that I haven't, because it just tells me all of them. So that's kind of cruddy. I kind of wish it didn't do that. I would be much better at keeping up on these patches if it did a better job. So the other thing is I had it do this to me once where the rotation stuff locked. So it does the auto rotate stuff. It's there. Don't look now. Now it's there. I don't know if that was something quirky with this or something with Windows, because one other time the narrator was turned on. So I tried to unlock it, and as I've got the little picture password thing set up, which is awesome on tablets. If you have a tablet like a Surface or something, turn the picture password on. You pick a picture and you have to do designs, and it's great for these kind of things. But when the narrator is on, when you try to do that, it just says picture because you're touching the picture. And I sadly spent probably 5 or 10 minutes trying to figure out how to log into this thing. So I had my phone open and I was Googling Windows Narrator, figure out how to shut the damn thing off. Turns out if you hold down like power and volume up or Windows and volume up or something, that turns the narrator on. And so as I was fumbling with this thing in my bag, that's what I'd done. And so I just so I wonder if the orientation thing isn't something like that too, that I just found a way to lock it. It's obviously fine now. But overall, pretty happy with the device. I use it probably daily for different things. It's light. The battery is good. So if you're looking for a small 8-inch type Windows tablet, the Dell Venue Pro 8 is a pretty good one. There are a couple of others out there. Toshiba's got one. Lenovo's got one. So if you're into something like that, that's a good little device. So I want to talk about, and I was going to talk about that last week and didn't. Another thing that I was going to talk about, another gadget that I bought, and I am horrified that I actually did this, and I know I'm going to lose respect from people. I know you guys are going to be disgusted with me, but I have to come clean. I respect you guys too much not to be honest with you. Before my last trip, my trusty noise-canceling headphones broke physically, like I set something on them or broke them. So I'm going to go back. Chris JM in the chat room is asking, is there stylus input on the Dell DV8 Pro? There is. It does not come with a stylus. You have to buy a stylus. And I use the stylus from my Surface Pro 2. I didn't get that to work with the DV8. I didn't try very hard because I never used the stylus. But again, that's another one of those things. If you're going to use a stylus, there were some driver things that you had to download. So yes, it works. No, it doesn't work out of the box. But there's 100 blogs that talk about how to do it. So my trusty noise-canceling headphones broke on me right before I was going to Vegas for NMX, and so I had to go out and buy something new. And what I ended up with, and again, folks, I know you're going to shake your heads in disappointment at me, I bought Bose. I bought Bose QC20s, so I can't get the whole thing in here now, but this is kind of a whole mess of stuff. So the ones that I had before were not Bose, but they were the big over-the-ear things. I kind of felt like when I turned them on, like something was crushing my head, and not in the funny kids in the hallway, you know, but just felt like something was crushing my head. And in the past, I've had the Shure in-ear noise blocking things, and those work pretty well, but, you know, they're like earplugs, and your ears get tired after a while. So these QC Quiet Comfort 20s are a weird design. They kind of sit in your ear, but not in your ear, and they kind of hang there. So you don't get that pressure from the on-air things, but they don't stick in there all the way. Now, I thought that this would be no way that these would actually work. So I was at Best Buy looking at some. I couldn't decide on what to get. And the guy's like, oh, try those out. And I'm like, there is no way these things are going to work. Now, if you've ever been to a Best Buy, there's a constant cacophony of things going on in the background. You have video games and pinball machines and kids screaming and ramming carts into stuff. And so I'm like, all right, sure, whatever. This will make you go away. And they put these in, and all the noise went away. The background din vanished. It was amazing. So it's not like, you know, the Get Smart chamber of silence or whatever that was. You know, you can hear people talking to you with just the noise canceling on. But, I mean, it removes all the crap in the background, which is awesome, for planes especially. So awesome. So a couple other great things that it has. It has a a button here where you can hit this button and it lets voices through. So when I was in the plane with them and the stewardess came over and asked me if I wanted something to drink, I could just hit that button and I could hear her and we could talk without having to pull everything out, which honestly, there's nothing to pulling these out. The other thing that's really cool is they're battery powered and they charge with micro USB. So there's a micro USB thing right there. And so you can just charge them. It's awesome. So I don't have to worry about carrying batteries around with me. And you'll notice it's got the little 4-pin thing. What does that mean? That means it's also got a microphone. And this piece here has a microphone, so I can use it with my phone. I've tried to use it a couple times, but I've always had the microphone part touching my chest, and it was very noisy. But I think that's going to work. Everybody in the chat room is really liking the fact that I use cacophony in a sentence, and you even used it correctly. Doug, I'm more impressed that you spelled cacophony correctly, so that's good. But yeah, so we got the microphone here. So overall, I've used these a little bit, and I'm pretty happy with them. Now, they're spendy. They cost as much as that tablet did. But when you travel as much as I do and are annoyed by noise as much as I am, they work pretty well. So I know the Bose gets a bad rap for being expensive and overpriced and all that. I get that. I've made those jokes myself. But these things are super comfortable and work like a champ. I'm really glad I got them. So if you need some decent noise canceling headphones, I recommend trying the Quiet Comfort 20s. So that is it for tonight. I went way over, but I just don't even care anymore. I'll hit a full hour before this is all over. So thanks to everyone in the chat room. Once again, to all you generous folks out there, I can't say thank you enough. Be looking for an email from me and all that, expressing my gratitude. I appreciate it. I will be here next week on the 27th, so everything's going to be great. Israel, this one's going out to you. Check out my blog at www.toddklindt.com/blog. And as always, shoot me an email, todd.klindt@rackspace.com, or hit me up on Twitter. You can't tell, but Tweetcast is sitting over there, at Todd Klindt. So thanks, everybody. If you've got other tech-type things that you're curious about, oh, geez, Lori reminded me, I almost forgot the shameless self-promotion. The reason I forgot, Lori, it hasn't changed since last week. So for shameless self-promotion, be doing the SharePoint conference in March, doing a pre-con on March 2nd, and that's install and all that. And then we're doing 3 sessions, load testing with Visual Studio, nuts and bolts and upgrading, and PowerShell. And also we'll be doing the Netcast from there somewhere at the SharePoint conference. So go to sharepointconference.com, sign up for that, and we'll see you there. Then in April, we've got SP TechCon, and that's sptechcon.com. That's April 22nd through the 25th in San Francisco. Think doing a pre-con there as well, and then some sessions. I don't remember, Shane signed us up for that one. So probably doing sessions on how to be handsome and all that, because that's the kind of stuff he thinks he is. And then in May, we're doing Microsoft Tech Ed in Houston. So there's going to be a big party at Teresa's house, SharePoint Madam. But that is May 12th through the 15th, also doing a pre-con there. And then I forgot to submit sessions, so I'm emailing those folks now, groveling, trying to get some regular breakouts. But did that. So thanks for everybody. Sorry for almost forgetting the shameless self-promotion. Thanks everybody again. Have a good week. Sorry I ran late. Sorry Matt Damon ran out of time. But see you guys all next week. Thanks. Have a good night.